Good evening, happy Friday. Well, for some of us, it's happy Saturday because it's after midnight here on the East Coast or Eastern time. But I wanted to hop on here while it was still fresh in my mind to talk about surviving R. Kelly. So this particular piece that they did was focusing on the legal trial that happened, that the prosecution started in 2002. And they didn't get it into fruition until eight is when he was formally prosecuted. But before we get into that, I just want to express my disgust and disappointment in some of our people who seem to think that it's the women's fault. These were not women at the time that R. Kelly began his grooming of them to be part of his harem, his sex slave. If you notice, one girl was 14 years old at the time that she met him, and then was 16, and then proceeded to lie about her age, and then finally confessed what her true age was, and R. Kelly just basically told her he didn't care about that part. But I see a lot of people often asking online, where were the parents? Where are the parents? I'm like, where the hell do you think the parents were? There's like three different things I can think of. Number one, latchkey kids. Parents are working to keep a roof over their head, food in their bellies, and lights on. Okay. Two, addiction problems. Three, just don't give a damn, and possibly did proceed to drop their child off to a man that they knew was a known pedophile and saw it as a payday and a come up. Let's be real, it is not uncommon for children to be sold into the sex slave trade by their own parents. So please stop trying to segment it to the point and dilute the fact that these young ladies who were children, teenagers at the time, I don't get why y'all would continue to say, yes, the parents could be considered complicit in it, but also anyone that was around at the time that R. Kelly was doing this could be considered complicit. Demetrius Smith was probably one of the most disappointing people in this whole outfit, R. Kelly's personal assistant. And this other guy named Jim Pratt, I think was his name. But it's true what the psychologist said last night and tonight, is that it is very hard for us to wrap our minds around the fact that someone that is held in high regard could be this evil monster that all these girls are painting him out to be. And that was his whole setup. He's very charismatic. I mean, Satan's very charismatic if you think about it. I mean, that's how he got so many people, entranced in being part of the satanic cult in some respects. So, I mean, it's just really sad that in the Black community, people want to protect the Black male, right or wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I was talking to someone about how mothers tend to be like, not my son. My son would never do anything like that. But then with the daughters, oh yeah, I believe it. And it's kind of like that sometimes with the male-female dynamic. Some of my friends and I, we grew up that way. My brother is the favorite, and I know he is, and I don't have a problem with that. It is what it is. I wasn't. But also my brother is not running around doing the things that R. Kelly is doing to his peril, and he's also a very good and astute person. But I'm just saying, a lot of times that's what happens. I've seen it in the education system. Parents are aware that their children are engaged in deviant behavior, but because it's a male son, oh, not my son, he would never do something like that. I saw it when I was at the public defender's office. The parents would be in denial about what their sons were doing. And it's like, yes, this little Negro went out here and ran into a police car and then tried to flee the scene, because when he got pulled over, I remember one case, dude was just 18 years old, had gotten pulled over by the cops, was trying to flee the scene, but the idiot didn't even put the car in drive, he put it in reverse. Thus now you've got destruction of public property, which is a felony. But let me get to the heart of the matter. So the first one was the sex tape scandal. And one of the things I noticed is that so many supporters, it's just like that Tracy Morgan meme that's going around. They go, mm-mm, mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not R. Kelly. Mm-mm. He didn't do it. Mm-mm, mm-mm. They lied on him. They trying to tear him down. We need to protect him and his legacy. It is a public lynching. Like today, some idiot called in and was talking about, I am R. Kelly's #1 fan, and he didn't do it. Y'all need to just leave him alone. I'm still gonna listen to his music. Well, you just keep right on listening to his music, girl. All them songs that he wrote about them young girls. Okay? Oh, my hair look big. Lord help. I like the fact that John Legend is part of this project, and he made a good point. He said everyone saw that sex tape with him peeing on Sparkle's niece. And, you know, not that he was per se watching it. I guess it's just kind of something that everyone knew, like you saw it in the news, you know, the edited version. But he was saying it also goes to show you how being wealthy in this country can get you a little further than being a poor man. Okay. And it also shows the balance of power between the rich and the victim. And one of the things that brought me back to is a case out of West Palm Beach, Jeffrey Epstein. This motherfucker got the best deal a pedophile could get from the feds. So he knew something about a Ponzi scheme in addition to molesting underage teenage girls. Okay. But instead of the government looking out for the best interest of individuals, they were trying to solicit information about some Ponzi scheme, which on the slick, I really think it was all about protecting their own, because who knows how high that stunk. Okay. So instead of them giving him like 15, 20 years in the slammer, this fool got 18 months in the federal penitentiary. He got his own private room, and 6 days a week he got to leave the cell and go work in his office in downtown West Palm Beach. Isn't that awesome? What a slap in the face to the victims. And that's kind of what R. Kelly is. And we heard Sparkle say tonight that they were talking about, but can we really afford to lose R. Kelly? He makes us a lot of money. And that's when I knew. I said, that's how he's been able to get away with the shit he's been getting away for years, because he's a cash cow. If you can make money, they will go to major, I mean, they'll do anything to protect their financial interest. And if I recall correctly, and I didn't bother to look it up, but R. Kelly doesn't own his catalog at all. So Jive Records, whomever he has to deal with, are the ones that own his stuff. I did a tweet to Lifetime that I hope they're going to do a docu-series on that. Another thing I noticed too is that last year, Investigation Discovery did a docu-series on David Koresh. And again, the government did not get involved in that situation until he was making weapons, automatic weapons. They knew about the pedophilia that was going on, that he was having sex with underage girls, and it was reported to them, but they didn't care about that. The ATF only showed up when they knew that automatic weapons were being used. Okay. They asked Andrew Kelly about his relationship with his children. I personally know that his kids don't mess with him. They don't care about him because he just wasn't a good dad. And she tried to proffer that age-old excuse that a lot of people like to give, which is, well, you know, he grew up without a father figure. That's no excuse not to be a dad. If you knew that something was lacking in your life, you can go take parenting classes, but he's not interested in that. I honestly believe that to him, R. Kelly, those children are just a product of his sadistic ways in which he allegedly treated Andrea Kelly. And I'm going to start using that term because, you know, none of this stuff, he hasn't been prosecuted for it. But I'm sorry, where there's smoke, there tends to be a fire. Okay? So, but I do know his children are his biggest fan. One of his daughters has transitioned from female to male, from what I understand. So he has a transgendered, is it transgendered son or is it transgendered daughter? Okay. Either way, someone comment down below, let me know what it is. But either way, this child, I wonder sometimes if because she knew about the abuse that her father engaged in, that she decided to become a he. But then So when all this was going on, Andrea Kelly was being like sheltered. And we found out essentially the reason why R. Kelly kept her sheltered, and she probably really didn't know what he was up to, is because she had to ask permission to come and go to the bathroom, to get something to eat, to change clothes, to brush her teeth. You name it, she could not breathe damn near without him telling her what to do. And that's why she never knew. But then she said once she found out all these allegations were going on, she was like trying to figure out, okay, how is he able to do all of this, come home, sometimes be a father, sometimes be a husband, abuse me? How is he doing this? And so one of the things that, you know, we found out was that he had enablers, he had help. And she said, but I tried not to laugh. It took all I could not to laugh, but I really had to laugh. She told me, you know, who's booking his flights and hotels and stuff like that? I mean, because you know he can't read and write good. And I said, see there? I remember when David Arnold told me my joke about R. Kelly was not going to work. But guess what? I'm going to revive this joke that I wrote about R. Kelly again, because this shit's some good shit. Only now I'm going to use Alexa instead of Dragon software. But that was interesting. Demetrius Smith, the personal assistant, when he said we worked for R. Kelly and we did what he wanted, you didn't have to do what he wanted. You could have walked away at any given time and walked your happy ass into a police station or somewhere and reported him from the mess. And then the nonchalantness of the males in there jamming him. Yeah, you know, R. Kelly used to just like to film himself, you know, having sex. That was his thing. You know, yeah, I watched some of the videos, but I never watched any of the ones. And I'm just like, it never occurred to you how abnormal that was. And then we learned that Sparkle, because of what happened with her niece in this videotape that got circulating, because Lisa, she was 17 at the time when she met R. Kelly, but the 17-year-old that he got with, who I guess at that time was probably about 18 or 19, who had engaged in sexual relations with Sparkle's niece under the guise that she was 16, which she said the girl was closer to her age. She even said that she was able to identify the girl because of her body in the video. She knew. Plus, other people were like, you heard people in the background calling him to come to the phone. Kels, R. Kelly, somebody on the phone. Kel, come on. Rob. You know, so I mean, but she took that videotape and the person she gave it to and decided to make it a cash cow, but it still ended up being sold on the black market at your local barbershop. Oh, this is R. Kelly sex tape. And y'all didn't think that that looked like a little girl to you? And they said that he just peed all over this girl. Like, who does that? And then Sparkle was outraged by it, but in my mind, Sparkle suffers from what a lot of people, like Trump supporters, suffer for, which is willful blindness. You know that what they're doing is wrong, but at the same time, you just don't want to acknowledge it because maybe you don't want to believe it, or maybe you too have fell under the guise and spell of believing that this person really is a good person. He would never hurt my niece. I won't stand for that. And then when she told her older brother, she just knew the older brother was going to, you know, help out in the situation. Here's another question. My friend Don's husband was like, how the hell is it that R. Kelly been getting away with this shit all these years and no one has stumped a mud hole in his ass? How has somebody not gone clean upside his head? Because honestly, I don't understand how he's been getting away with it all these years. I really don't. I don't know how some father, some uncle, some big brother has not been outraged. And not to say that two wrongs make a right. But at this point, I mean, how has he been getting away with that? We really need to explore that. Sparkle said that she actually was ostracized from her family. So I'm just like, oh, okay, well, girl, she was like, he destroyed my family. I'm like, you destroyed your family because you knowingly and willingly participated in the exploitation of your niece because you never should have introduced her to him. You knew how he was. If the wife is creeping around the house and she lived there having to ask permission, that didn't seem abnormal to you. And when he tried to isolate you by telling people that were working with you not to talk to you, I don't know. It's just really sad. And we found out about the court cases that he had been settling for years, which we all had heard about those at the time when the sex tape scandal broke. He was settling these for like pennies on the dollar. basically. Like, these parents were willing to take scraps. And of course, he did a non-disclosure agreement where basically they can never talk about this again. Unfortunately, we saw, well, let me not say unfortunately, but fortunately in the Bill Cosby case, we actually saw where a non-disclosure went out the door when it came time for criminal prosecution. I'm really curious to see, will R. Kelly be criminally prosecuted? And y'all, why did I just find out this man's middle name is Sylvester? I said Sylvester the Molester. Sexing them crazy. So when the sex tape scandal happened, what I found interesting is that the guy who had it had multiple copies, and R. Kelly told him to go get all the copies. Okay. And the guy at the time when he brought the one tape, he said it was it. He had them set up for a lie detector. Lisa, the girl who gave the dude the tape, or some kind of way it ended up in his hands because of her passing it to an associate of R. Kelly's. She was saying that at one point they were going to kill her. That's interesting. Sparkle was baffled by everything that was going on. She said that, you know, you saw things, and she said, you know, you heard things. And I was like, but you also saw some things too, girl. Willful blindness. My friend Andrea asked, I didn't follow the case. Who were all the girls? The girls tended to be fans. Now, one of the things that the Pied Piper of R&B liked to do is that he liked to troll McDonald's and malls for girls. And once he trained these girls, he would send them out to go find other girls. Okay. Kind of like blind disciples in a way. But I don't know how he had been getting away with it, but, you know, these girls just willingly participated in it and didn't think anything was wrong with it. So part 4 is when we get to the trial, the people versus Robert Kelly, or R. Kelly, as they said it. Now, at the end of the part 3, we see the prosecutor's office saying that charges have been filed against R. Kelly. We want to send a message to all pedophiles that they can't get away with this. Well, here's the problem with you trying to send a message to sick, sadistic people who suffer from these urges and impulses that they apparently have no control over without some sort of frontal lobe mitigation going on. A shock to the conscience or something, or some sort of medication that could suppress these needs. Pedophiles don't care. You know, they just, number one, people like R. Kelly thought they would never be caught. And even when caught, he knew he was going to get off. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they paid off some jurors. At this point, I really wouldn't be. One of the things that was most disappointing about this case is the fact that jurors were saying he didn't like how the girls were dressed. So their likability and ability to persuade a jury that, you know, they legitimately had witnessed certain things. So it just, I'm sorry, I just get really emotional when I think about someone taking young women and just destroying their youth and their innocence and taking their innocence. The court case was just a circus. You had all these young teen girls, one in particular, Geronda. She watched him all day, every day, because she didn't want to believe that her hero was a pedophile. Eventually, she did get to find out just what a monster he was at 16. Honestly, R. Kelly, when he was being prosecuted, should have undergone a psych eval, but of course, because he didn't claim depraved mind as a defense, or the insanity plea, as they say. But honestly, some kind of way, the prosecutor should have finagled for him to be evaluated and had to get mandatory treatment. I don't. It's just really weird. And of course, the community is going to continue to support him because they don't want to believe their favorite artist who is so gifted and so talented. And here's the thing about it. It's almost like R. Kelly knows right from wrong, but because of these impulses that and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but because of the childhood trauma that he suffered and the fact that he never has gotten help for it, and now that he is beyond, for now, he's just beyond trying to get help, basically. So he just, in his mind, this is just right to him. But at the same time, he knows that it's wrong. It's like the thorn in his side, so to speak. But it's just really sad that his team never sat him down and got him help. And I honestly think the best thing that could have happened is if his enablers like Demetrius Smith and Jim Pratt had just walked away. But they couldn't walk away from the checks. That's the one thing. Where's your morals? Where's your integrity? Like, what if that was your daughter or your niece or even your mom or somebody being sexually abused by this man and brutalized by him? But y'all couldn't walk away and y'all saw things that you knew was not natural or normal. It just doesn't make any sense. So during the trial, this is when the mess got really messy. So they did what, I don't know if y'all remember watching The Practice back in the day, but remember they used to be like, we're going to plan B him. So that's what they did during the trial. First of all, let me tell you how good R. Kelly paid good money for this defense. I'm imagining this was like $100,000 to $200,000 defense, okay? Because hell, I know that would be the first thing I'd tell them. I'm going to need $50,000 to get started on your case. Then we'll go from there. My hourly is this, which would probably be $1,000 an hour for a client like him. But they waited until that girl was 20 years old. They staved that case off that long and waited until she was like in her 20s. And all the other girls had aged up too, to their 20s. And that way people wouldn't look at them and see that they were children. Ain't that something? But they decided to plan B the jury and create reasonable doubt, which honestly, if I was a defense attorney, Monica, you're watching, chime in. If I was a defense attorney, I would probably have done some stuff like that too. Number one, you just be like, let me point the finger at someone else and cause reasonable doubt. So they tried to get his brother, Kerry, his younger brother, whom he suppressed from talking about being molested, that he was the one in the videotape peeing on the girl. Now, everybody know him and his brothers, they don't look anything alike, okay? As a matter of fact, R. Kelly looks just like his mama spit him out, okay? But they wanted him to be deposed by R. Kelly's attorneys, and he was going to pay him $100,000 plus a record deal. Then Bruce, the older brother that's in prison for burglary, probation violations, and drugs, he up to tomorrow. I don't know why he didn't take the deal. You stupid. You could have been rich. $100,000 does not make anyone rich this day and age, and even then, it would make them rich. My friend Minister Donald says we have to be willing to evaluate everything that we allow ourselves to observe and indulge in. We do. Apparently, these people had no moral compass that observed everything that R. Kelly was doing. I just realized R. Kelly's brother is a troll. He just goes against the grain of everything that anybody with right good sense would say. But considering it seems like him and his brother took a page from the school of James Brown and Ike Turner, I just see it as I don't know. I was trying to figure out where they do that at, Bruce. Where they do that at? The victim blaming, I think I touched on that already. Where are the parents? I'm tired of hearing it. It doesn't matter where the parents are at this point. The point is that as a grown-ass man, R. Kelly should have known better. And he does know better. He knows exactly what he's doing. At trial, Sparkle said she was ostracized from her family. As a matter of fact, it was 10 years after all of this came out that she finally talked to her family. Everybody got up on the witness stand. She was the only one that said, that's my niece. I was able to identify him, and I was able to identify him from the video. Her oldest brother, her sister, her brother-in-law, none of them, they all said, that ain't her. And you know what I think happened? She says, honestly, I don't know if they were paid off, but I believe based upon their behavior, they were in fact paid off. And plus, the brother-in-law was still playing guitar for R. Kelly. In addition, one of the things that they also did to distract attention from R. Kelly's case is that he came out with that Step in the Name of Love. What was it? The Chocolate Factory? That, as a matter of fact, I never bought that album. I remember, I think TPK or whatever it was, 2000, whatever was like the last R. Kelly album, because I was like, that's it. At this point, there's too much smoke, so there's a fire. He's guilty. We knew it from Aaliyah, but like my friend pointed out last night, we were all young. We were like in high school when those allegations came out. So we kind of couldn't process that at the time. The 16-year-old that ended up at his house naked after being in a bathing suit in his nice, luxurious pool area, she said that he wanted her to start calling him daddy. She had to ask permission, and when she told him that she was a virgin, he said, oh, well, then I can train you. It must have been a horrible jury pick based on the comment from the one guy they showed. Monica, it had to be, because he said that they couldn't find him guilty based on the dress of the people that was testifying. I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get a clear picture. I was like, what? By the way, he was found not guilty. And his brother Bruce said, that was the best news I heard. I was like, shut up, you ignorant fuck. That's what I said. He is an ignorant fuck. So I'm just like, at what point do y'all just... Anyway, come to find out, the 16-year-old had been sexually molested as early as age 6, I believe she said, and she relayed this story to him, and he too shared he had been molested. So there you go, we got something in common. So that's how he gets you. He pretends to be a sympathizer, and like Andrea Kelly said, you meet R. Kelly, the fun guy, and then later on Robert comes out, and that's someone you definitely don't want to meet, okay? They got into an argument. Geronda, the girl that he took her virginity, she said that her first time was nothing elaborate. I was like, baby girl, ain't none of the first time for any of us elaborate. It's painful. There's nothing sexy about it. Don't let the movies fool you. That shit is a fairy tale. It doesn't feel great. But because you were with a grown pervert, I imagine it was probably brutal, is what I'm thinking. When they got into an argument about bulls versus calves, basically she ended up on the no-eat list, which means she said the longest I ever went without food was 3 days, and she survived on peanuts and water. She also brought one of her little girlfriends into it, and now this mother we will see in parts probably 5 and 6. This is where that story broke last summer when the families, which, oh my God, that was a public relations nightmare. I was like, y'all need to hire a public relations team, because it may be very serious, but none of us can take you serious, because right now y'all look like a three-ring circus out here. I mean, what are you doing? But one of the girls that Geronda was told to recruit, she had met on MySpace. So that tells you how old this is. And yeah, so now she's part of the harem. Yeah, as a matter of fact, as of this day, as far as I know, old girl is still with R. Kelly to this day. But overall, Andrea Kelly suffered. She almost lost their son that she was pregnant with. The baby almost died. Tremendous trauma. He has hogtied this woman. He has brutalized her. He has imprisoned her. He kind of forced a marriage on her. And he really needs help. And I hope at this point that someone intervenes and gets him some help. These interviews that they let him do on BET, I mean, that was very telling too. I remember the one when he had the braids, and I was like, he did it. But I don't understand how this can go on. Comment down below. Let me know. I see another comment. Wait a minute. Jury was paid off. I think the jury was tampered with too. I really do. I think the jury was paid off. I think Sparkle's family members were paid off. She was the only one brave enough. She gave up her career for her niece. I think that it's really sad that so many people said they saw and thought it was abnormal that R. Kelly would be at this girl's basketball games that was in the P video. And yet no one said anything. What does R. Kelly know about somebody in the industry? He knows where some bodies are buried, because there is no way he should continue to be getting away with this. But we live in a capitalistic society. I believe it was Gordon Gekko that said it best: greed is good. And it ain't always good for everybody. Sometimes we're victims, and that's why I brought up those other cases with David Koresh and Jeffrey Epstein. It's not just black men. And what I find disturbing is the fact that on Today, I think his name is AJ, used to be on 106 and Park, AJ and Free. Women now are coming out saying that he has been inappropriate with them. So I don't know. It's just it's a season for the perverts to be ousted. Now, if we could just get that man out of office in the White House, that would be awesome too. you know, he's in the government shutdown mode and families are starving, but he got free government housing. But yeah, R. Kelly, I hope that this is the nail in the coffin. Again, I know that John Legend doesn't want us to be like, yay! But I mean, I really commend him for standing up because no one else would. Now, Questlove said he didn't want to do it because, quite frankly, he's never respected R. Kelly. He always thought his art was trash. Erykah Badu didn't do it. Jay-Z, I think, probably didn't do it because after the Best of Both Worlds tour, when all that stuff started, the accusations and stuff started coming up, you know, Jay quick to walk away from some shit. It's like drop mic, exit stage, left. I don't know why Erykah Badu. I think with Dave Chappelle, they just simply wanted him to come and talk about why he did the spoof on the Chappelle show about him. But I think Dave Chappelle was like, I don't want to get involved with that. And there's just quite a few artists that just said no, but I think it would have been really good if they talked, but a lot of people just don't want to talk in the industry. And that is unfortunate. It has been an environment of silence. But like I keep telling people, it's not just black men that are being prosecuted and kicked out their jobs. I mean, the CBS person is getting kicked out. Remember the dude from Fox? He died. As a matter of fact, that stress of all that guilt, all the bad shit he did, he had a heart attack and died. Who else? Harvey Weinstein is being prosecuted. Kevin Spacey is being prosecuted. Bill Cosby was prosecuted. I know everybody loves Bill. But here's the deal with all of this, especially when people try to defend black men in this. Here's the bottom line. Just because everyone else is doing it, what if our parents always taught us? That don't mean you have to do it too. Especially when you know it's something illegal and that could bring harm to another individual. I mean, and then also you got to realize, and I learned this lesson early on in my career in corporate America, just because my white counterparts are doing it doesn't mean I can do it. Because oftentimes black people and other minorities are held to a double standard. How R. Kelly's been able to slide through all this time is amazing. But then again, in the music industry, as they pointed out in the first part of the series, people like Chuck Berry, Jerry Lewis, Elvis Presley, even the Beatles wrote inappropriate songs. What was she, 17 or something like that? So, I mean, there's a rape culture that goes on, and people often want to blame the victim. It's the woman's fault because of how she looked, how she dressed. These girls are hot between the legs. They knew what they were doing. Please stop saying that, because you don't know what those girls have been through. A lot of sexual abuse victims tend to be promiscuous and not have the tools and the mental capacity to know how to deal in those situations. And I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people are too ignorant and too stupid to not research this, or at least have a moral compass to care and be sympathizers to these women. But I really think it's great that we're having this conversation. I think that it's great that this docuseries is done. What's her name? Dream Hampton brought it. And, you know, he talking about he gonna sue them. And I'm like, for what? How can you sue when most of this stuff is probably true? R. Kelly is a sick individual. And if they don't imprison him, his team needs to put him in some sort of facility where he can get the treatment that he needs and is able to confront his childhood demons. Because the preyed upon has become the predator. And that's essentially what happened. Hurt people hurt other people. And we need to stop that. And especially in the black community, we need to have open dialogue. When a child comes to you and brings you allegations about an adult that has been inappropriate with them, let's investigate. Let's do due diligence. Because sometimes children do have imaginations and people do plant those seeds. But for the most part, we need to take a look at each of those cases and make sure that a child's innocence is not being stolen by some sociopath. Any questions, concerns? Look at me, I sound like I'm a professor right now. Any questions, concerns, anything else anybody want to express who's watching? I see I have 3 people watching. I probably have more than that, but some people probably are on stealth mode. But that's all I've got. Of course, I'm going to chop this up for YouTube. So if you're new to my YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, hit the like. I wish this had been better, but my mind is, it gives rise to unconscionability. My mind is shocked by some of the stuff. I mean, one of my friends inboxed me. She said, I just had to turn it off. I couldn't watch anymore. And when you think about it, R. Kelly has told all of his crimes in every song he's written. Every song. But that's all I've got. Y'all can comment down below, post this. I'll probably have this uploaded by tomorrow because I'm going to bed. That's all I got. Good night. And again, it's still Happy New Year and it's still my birthday month and I'm 42 and I'm fabulous. Be great.